of local community organizations, synagogues, academic institutions, and the Israeli embassy. And the purpose of the forum is to educate the Washington Jewish community about the Arab citizens of Israel. Arab citizens, those who vote, have citizenship, passport, Israeli, all Israeli, are about 21% of the population of the country. Of that 21%, which is about 1.5 million Arab citizens, about 82% are Muslim, 10% are Christian, and 8% are Druze. For the most part, Jews and Arab citizens in Israel live in separate localities and attend separate schools. There are, however, mixed cities and other communities, Haifa most famous, where shared experiences do occur. So in 2014, a 33-year-old Arab Muslim microbiologist and mother of 3 won Israel's most watched reality television show called Master Chef. The experience propelled her, Dr. Nof Atamna Ismail, on a quest to create social change through food. She created the Asham Arabic Food Festival in Haifa, where pairs of Arab and Jewish chefs collaborate on traditional dishes from each of their cultures. As you saw in the film, hopefully you saw it, Breaking Bread, these collaborations led not only to the sharing of experiences and life stories, but also to new friendships and partnerships. Today, we're delighted to have with us the filmmaker of Breaking Bread, Beth Elise Hawk. Beth will share with us insights about the creation of the film and give us an update on some of our favorite chefs from the film. We're also honored that a Druze Israeli chef and restaurateur, Gazala Halavi, is with us. Gazala will share her experiences as a member of the Druze community in Israel and what it's like to be an Arab Israeli chef in the United States. She has a restaurant, 2 restaurants in New York, one Midtown, one Upper West Side. The program will be moderated by Sara Polon, co-founder of Soupergirl and a local rock star. Sarah is a former stand-up comedian who is now dedicated to changing the planet one soup at a time. And if you have questions for our panelists as the discussion goes on, please write them in the Q&A section of the Zoom. That's toward the right, on the right of participants, etc. Not the chat feature, but the Q&A. So if you have family or friends in New York, please then let them know about Gazala's restaurant, Upper West Side, open for carry-out delivery and limited indoor dining. And if you're looking for healthy vegan kosher soup, Soupergirl is open for local delivery, curbside pickup, nationwide shipping, and can be found at Whole Foods, Costco, and other grocery stores. So if those sounded like commercials, they are. Supporting small businesses is about the most important thing we need to do at this time. Finally, we'd like to thank our partners at the Edlovich Jewish Community Center of DC for putting together this program, Ilya especially. For more programs like this, please visit the site jxjdc.org to get your tickets for the virtual film, music, and arts J Festival, December 3 to 10. So now it's my pleasure to turn over the program to our moderator, Sara Polon.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for that kind introduction. Appreciate it. And yes, now is the time to support small businesses and see small films online. And with that, let's dive right in to our questions. So Gazala, let's start with you. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And please talk a little bit about what it means to be Druze in Israel and what it was like growing up in your village and what kind of interactions you had with the Jewish citizens of Israel.
Yeah, I grew up in a small village called Daliat El Carmel near Haifa. I grew up like a Druze girl, you know. I studied for a short time in Haifa University, but I didn't get the chance to, you know, discover a lot the way I discovered it in New York. I think I am proud to be a Druze Israeli here in New York, especially from my experience. I appreciate more my country, and I appreciate all the people who helped me here. I got a lot of support from the Jewish community over here. It doesn't matter if they were Israelis or if they were American. So that's it.
Okay. Well, as a follow-up, when you go back to Israel to visit, obviously pre-COVID or post-COVID, what do you notice that has changed in society and in your village, and what has stayed the same?
Um, I have to say that there is changes, of course. I came here 2001, and every year I see a little bit of change, style of life. People are changing, especially right now with the media, with everything. But also I have to give the credit to Israel that, for example, in Israel, they don't have any contact with Druze Lebanese or Druze Syrian. Here I get the chance because, there is few Druze Lebanese or Syrian. And I believe the Druze Israeli, they kept their traditional, they kept, they are more Druze than, I don't want to say they're more Druze, but they have the freedom to be, let's take it this way, comparing to the Druze in outside of Israel. So I will give that the credit to Israel that they give us the freedom to be and practice to be Druze. So there is changes the way, like for example, 2001, I wasn't even allowed to wear pants, like only dresses and but right now, like everybody wearing pants. I'm just giving you an example, but it's still like these small changes, it's like little bit changes. I cannot say that they change a lot. I don't know how they're gonna change in the future, but there is changes, of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beth, we're going to switch over to you. Let's just dive right into the film. What first sparked your interest in making a film about Dr. Nof Atamna Ismail and the Asham Festival? Yeah, you're on mute, Beth.
I don't
There you
know
go.
what happened there. In any event, I first would like to thank Jay by Jay and Ilya and the rabbi. Thank you so much for having me here, for letting me share my labor of love, this film with you and with your audience. It was nothing but an incredible joy to make, and it's just wonderful to be able to share it. It started because I was sitting in traffic. I live in Los Angeles, and I was listening to my radio, and Dr. Nofa Tamna Ismail had just won Israel's Master Chef, and she was doing a tour and speaking about her mission of bringing Jews and Arabs together. And I said, oh my goodness, I have to meet this woman. I got home, I got onto my Facebook, and I sent a messenger message, which I love to talk about because it's the internet age that you can be in Los Angeles and be in touch with somebody, a stranger in Israel, within 60 seconds. But that's what happened. And eventually she told me about her festival. And I said, we must tell this story. So that's how it happened.
Thank you. Wow. That's you just dove right in. That's fabulous. Well, then back to Gazala, based on watching the film and your personal experience sharing Druze cuisine in New York City, in what ways do you believe food or culinary experiences can act to bridge different cultures and our understanding of one another and to build a better shared society in Israel?
You're talking about Israel or here?
Israel, we're focusing first on Israel.
I think food, it's the right way to make this happen. Like, especially if you open a restaurant, for example, and there is different people come and dine and eat your food. I think you will build kind of bridge, they will know more about your culture, more about your food. If they like your food, that's mean, they're gonna continue coming, they're gonna search about your culture or where you come from, I think food, it's one of the right way to do it and to make it happen.
Well, do you have any anecdotes also to share with regarding your restaurants in New York? There's no shortage of
in New York-
multiculturalism there.
Here in New York, I think thanks to the media, thanks to the New York Times, to everybody like me, like Druze. I don't think that many people know what Druze is. We are less than 1 million in this world. And because of the media and because of, my restaurant, I think maybe small percentage know now more that there is Druze exist, I think it was a message here that, my restaurant, that here you go, we are exist, there is something called Druze. And I think my food, my restaurant, it was also bridge, kind of to people to know about Druze, about a little bit about our culture. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Beth, let's dive back into the movie. And in addition to making us all salivate with scenes of incredible dishes, the film offers a really hopeful take on the possibilities of meaningful coexistence, and even more so, collaboration between Israel's Arab citizens and its Jewish ones. So what did you personally learn in the making of this film about the potential for finding common ground, and whether it be personal, political, religious, in a country so often portrayed by the media as being hopelessly divided?
I mean, I think that's exactly what made me obsessed about this film, is that it was so different than what you see on the media. Even just speaking with Nov, hearing about that she had won MasterChef, hearing about her mission, it sounded nothing like what I see. And I really wanted to be inspired and tell something positive instead of all the negativity that is all we ever hear. But I wanted to be authentic. I only wanted to tell if it was real, and it was real. Nov says in the film, she thinks that 90% want to live together, and it's the 10% that make it to the media and get all the coverage. And then everybody thinks that the 10% is the 90%. That's my experience. That's exactly what happened to me. I mean, I think before I left, people said, oh, she's just an exception. She's just the only one. And I really wondered, will I even have a film? I went to scout to even see. And you know what? I got to Haifa, and again, it's Haifa, which I love, which I didn't know before, but Haifa is truly that. And it really is people living together. It's not about labels. It's not about religion. It's not a religious city. I mean, neither is Tel Aviv, but that's not what it's about. Like Hila Alpert said, there's no God in the middle. Jesus wasn't there. Muhammad wasn't there. Moses wasn't there. The Baha'i are there. But they don't fight with anybody, like she says. So, that city in and of itself, you really, just like in the film, cannot tell the difference between who is the Jew and who is the Muslim. And so that was so refreshing. Of course, the people I met were people who participated in a festival that had a positive message, so they came with positivity. I can't say the whole country is like that. I can talk about my experience. My experience was incredible. My experience was nothing like the media. My experience saw Jews and Muslims together, and actually people, not Jews and Muslims, just people. And that's what I hopefully portrayed in the film.
Can I say something, please?
Sorry?
In Israel, people are very religious. It doesn't matter if it's Jewish, if it's Druze, if it's Muslim. And it's so beautiful. It's so interesting that everybody practicing their own religion in their way. Very religious. But when it's coming to live together, they are living together. I grew up in Israel, and I'm giving you just, the right thing. I'm saying the right, like what I experienced, what my parents experienced, what everybody in Israel experienced. They live great together,
Right, and I think in some cities, and I can't speak for all the cities, so some place like Jerusalem, I think is exactly what you're saying, Gisela. But I found in Haifa, people were not wearing religious labels, period. Of course, you have your very religious people of all kinds, just like you have here. I'm sure there are definitely pockets of them in Haifa, but I think people choose to live in Haifa probably because they're more secular and
No, but even the people who live in Haifa, they are religious, which is not bad. This is not something bad. This is something personal. But what I'm saying, that everybody practicing their religion in their way. They are religious all the way. Like even us, like Druze. In Israel, we are very religious. But when it's come to social, and when it's come to live together, we live great together, you know, Druze, Muslims, and Jewish, and Christian, by the way.
It's a fascinating, optimistic counterpoint to what we're used to hearing. So I love this discussion. Beth, I want to ask you, talk to you as an artist. Note from Marx in the film, quote, "It's up to the artists to bring us together. The politicians have failed." So as an artist yourself, spreading the message of unity as you tour the country and the world with your film, what have you found the reception to your documentary to be? Did showing it in Israel elicit a different response than maybe the US? And how about showing it at Jewish festivals versus other environments?
Listen, I think the world is hungry for these kinds of stories, because I can only say that I have had nothing but the most incredible experience and response with this film that I am so grateful for. I could have never expected this when I made it, and it's been an incredible joy. You know, it won the Audience Award for Favorite Culinary Cinema Film at the Napa Valley Film Festival where it opened, which was not a Jewish audience at all. It was a foodie audience. Same thing, it played at the Culinary Sidebar at the Santa Barbara International Festival, packed, sold out, non-Jews for the most part. Then you have the Jews and Muslims in Israel. They were very responsive to it. Nof brought her mother. She loved it. You know, we played Jerusalem Jewish, and she came, and Salah Kordi came, and Dochel Safadi, and he's the person who says people are people and food is food, and, you know, let's just get along. That person, he's the forefather of modern Arabic cuisine in Israel, and he loved it. I think people, what's resonating everywhere probably, but both places, is that there's this is not what they see in the media, and for people living there too, so they want to hear each other's voices. They're mesmerized to just hear, because I think also, like Osama says, and I'm contradicting a little bit only if you're outside of Haifa, but like Osama says, outside of Haifa, I don't think we have enough contact together. And I think that's sometimes part of it. So when you have contact, you can see the humanity. When you're eating together, you can see the commonality. But when you're segregated, or, you know, or you don't have the contact, you don't. And when you see in the media only segregation and only negativity, that's what you start believing. So I think what is making people interested, I think, is to see these fresh voices that they're not used to. And it's authentic, as I said. So that's
extremely, yeah. I appreciate that. I just want to pause for a moment and remind the audience, you can enter your questions in the Q&A window. Please don't put them in the chat. Make sure you put them in the Q&A, and you can start entering them at any time. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. Gazala, I wanted to go back to you for a minute. You're a restaurateur in a pandemic. Are there any key differences you see in the challenges facing Arab chefs in Israel compared to the difficulties, you've seen in the US at this really, really challenging moment?
I think it's a very tough time to the chefs. It doesn't matter if it's in Israel, in Europe, or in America. We all going through tough time. And there is a hope, of course, always, that we will get from this, soon, they will find a solution. But I think everywhere right now, the situation is just very bad. Look at me, you will see. I'm like so tired, I'm so exhausted. I fire a lot of people. One of the restaurant, I didn't open it yet. So the situation, it's very tough, but I think we should be positive and just be patient. I think we will pass this soon.
I agree. And there's hope. There's hope on the horizon. So I agree. Absolutely. Beth, can you give us an update on the film? Since you wrapped up shooting, I think you have some exciting next steps planned for the film's distribution, and even is there a rumor of a companion book of recipes?
Thank you, Sarah, for asking. The film, I'm absolutely grateful that it has been acquired by Cohen Media Group for a 2021 theatrical release. Let's hope that theaters will be open. And in the interim, it will be playing festivals until then. And if people are interested, it's playing all over the place. It played in London this week. It's playing in Philly on Saturday, et cetera, et cetera. So the social media often has updates. If people are interested in spreading the word, I would really appreciate it. And so on Instagram, it's Breaking Bread Movie, and Facebook too, Breaking Bread Movie. In addition, I am trying to put together a companion book with the recipes because people are asking, and I do feel like, especially when hopefully theaters open and people want to celebrate, there would be nothing better than to be able to cook one of these exotic dishes that also, I think that's another thing that is resonating with people. They're seeing dishes that, in a world where everybody knows everything, these are still dishes that people are pretty much unfamiliar with, like a ta'ashimi or a manti or katayef people maybe know, but there are dishes in there that I think, or kishak, of course, makluba is a Palestinian dish. So these are things that I think would be wonderful if people might want to cook at home or cook for their friends and then go see the movie. So I'm working on collecting those recipes. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task when it's not COVID to deal with Israel 10 hours ahead, and it's Israel, if anybody deals with Israel. But with COVID, it's more difficult, but they're slowly trickling in. I've been sort of trying to test them out. I worked on Salah Kordi's katayef, that's why I mentioned it a week ago, and that's a recipe that I can't wait to share when I really get it all together, because it seemed pretty easy for us all, for the home cooks out there to do. It's a pancake that comes out almost like a bellini. Oh, and then you can really stuff it with whatever you want. Like they talk about it. Traditionally, katayef is a sweet dish for Ramadan, but in the film they make it in a savory way, and we can all be inspired to do that as well, and then just celebrate the film. And so updates on that will be on social media too.
Wonderful. So I'm going to keep on this. I'm salivating right now. Great question from an Estelle for Gazala. Can you tell us, first of all, what are the name of your restaurants? And then number two, what is traditional Druze food? So for example, what is a typical family dinner, a celebratory dinner for a birthday or a holiday? So can you give us an intro into Druze cuisine?
Of course. The name of the restaurant first is Gazala's, which is after my name. And Druze, there is few dishes. I cannot say we have big menu for Druze only. We have the Middle Eastern food, of course, with little bit twist. We have like something called makruda, which is ground beef with burghul, spices, onion, and parsley. We fry it in olive oil, not deep fry, of course. And this, for example, this dish, they always give it for women the first day after she delivered the baby, We have labaniya, which is burghul balls over yogurt, homemade yogurt. We have a few dishes. I wasn't that brave. Like labaniya, I have it in the menu. Not people not crazy about it because it's different taste, you know. And also we are nasty in taste. Like we like very spicy, very salty, very sour. But and also we are famous in our spices. Like for example, my grandma, she used to sell spices. So we have our own food. Also the bread that I make in my restaurant, which is Saj bread. I cannot say only Druze make it, but it's named after a Druze. It's a Druze pita, which is very thin. We make it like in a pan, big pan, and like 40 seconds it's cooked. We have a few things, but like I will say like 80%, 70% of our food, it's Middle Eastern food, like hummus, baba ganoush, falafel.
I'm so hungry right now. Thank you. Beth, gonna send one to you. This is about an artistic choice when you made the movie. Josh Green asks, much of the dialogue in the film was devoted to statements about coexistence. What led to that choice rather than devoting more time to discussing food or music?
I can't answer that because I don't think I made any specific, I'm not sure I feel that that's accurate, and maybe it is. I was telling the stories and that's how they came out. I wasn't making any specific choices of, oh, I need to tell this story, or, oh, I need to tell that story. I just, you know, you film many hours and you sculpt the film in post-production. It gets written basically in post-production in when you make a documentary. That's what's so interesting versus a narrative where you're filming the script. So for me, it was just, wow, what flows, what stories are working, what is, you know, what is entertaining, what is making the structure work. You know, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't have an agenda, let's say. So.
Well, following up on that, Sarah Cohen asked a lovely question. She said, congratulations on creating an inspiring, beautifully shot film, highlighting the culinary creative process, history, landscape, and people that compose Israeli society. Has there been any continuity in the connections and relationships the chefs made after the festival? And are there any collaborations that they're planning in the future?
It's a good question. And, you know, with COVID, I don't have a full update. I know that after the film, I know that Shlomi's family went to Ali's restaurant to celebrate his birthday. So there was that. And, you know, I'm sure they're in touch, but I don't think at the moment, or there was nothing grand that is at the moment, but I'm sure at some point, maybe there will be something. I don't know.
Okay. Gazala, someone anonymously asked, can you share more about how your Druze identity has shaped your life and your work? When you opened your restaurant, did you find that people were familiar with the Druze community in Israel?
I will say that some, yes, because when I opened the restaurant 2007, the first one in Midtown, it's very tiny. It's about 300 square foot. So when I open up, one actor, I don't remember her name, she came with her husband. She was passing and she saw something open up. She came inside, she tasted the food, and then she told everybody. And right after that, the Time Out wrote like a small review, you know, under the opening section, and say Druze Israeli. So I posted, I was so excited. I posted in the door, in the window, and it was so many people came. Oh, Druze, you know, we've been in Israel. We went to Druze villages, and I didn't even believe it. I called my mom. I said, listen, we are famous. You know, people know about us, you know, not everybody, of course. So I will say some of the, especially the people who visited Israel know about Druze, you know. So I think some people, they do. Right now, I think it's more because of the media, because also they give a little bit about Druze, which is, I have to say something also. We have a very secret religion. Like, we are like, we don't share it. We believe it's very personal when it's come to religion. So that's why a lot of people don't know what Druze is, like what they believe, what they practice. Like we don't have like a Christmas or Hanukkah. We don't have this kind of holidays. We have like religion after a prophet or something. So it's a little bit complicated to be Druze. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So there's been so much optimism shared. A few audience members wanted to bring up a counterpoint. So first, Meredith asked, Beth, do you think that such a festival could successfully occur and be accepted in Jerusalem, or is it unique to Haifa? And what about other places in Israel?
I know Nov wants to try to bring it to Tel Aviv. I think it could work in Jerusalem too. Look, I was at the Jerusalem Jewish Film Festival in December, and also what a magical city. I mean, of course, there the religion is highlighted. All religions, you see them all over the streets. Everybody that's been to Israel knows that. But again, maybe what Gazala was saying, it doesn't mean that people don't live together or respect each other. And I don't see why. I mean, there's all these wonderful restaurants in Jerusalem now. You know, you have Moshe Basson, I think, with Eucalyptus, who he has a group called Chefs for Peace. He's all about bringing the sides together through food. You have Machne Yehuda, which is a super hip restaurant. I bet they would want to do something. There's a lot of restaurants that I'm sure would love to participate. I'm sure there's a lot of Arab restaurants that would participate. So I don't see why not. And if anybody would, you know, wants to figure out how to fund that, I could help, and we could all talk to Nov and figure it out. But I don't see why it wouldn't be. And, you know, the more that can be done and in different places, the better the world can be. So, you know.
Well, I guess speaking of the chefs, Gloria wants to know, how are the chefs paired up and what criteria were used?
Nov selects that. You know, she has a list. She has a list of the restaurants that there's Jewish restaurants and Muslim restaurants, Christian restaurants. And then she has a list of chefs. A lot of them are famous, and she pairs them, and she decides what the chemistry will be, which I think she does a wonderful job, or she did a wonderful job. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, back to Gazala, you mentioned in the beginning, the Jewish community it's very religious, very private, and very conservative. So Allison wanted to know, how did your family and your community react to your decision to become a businesswoman?
Okay, I came to New York with my husband. I didn't even thought for a moment I will have my own, but you know, I've been seeing America, I've been seeing New York in the movies, so it was like, oh my God. So my parents were all totally against it, because family is very important to us. And it was like a big thing to my family that I shouldn't leave. But in the end, I get married, and with the time, they didn't accept it. But I believe when I opened the restaurant, they saw channel 1, I believe, or channel 2, and they pass it from one to the other, and like everybody, look what Gazala did, look what Gazala did, and my parents was so happy, so happy. By the time I wasn't able to go to Israel because I didn't have papers. I stayed here 9 years. After 9 years, I visited for the first time. But I went to Israel, and people, I went for a week. I just couldn't believe it. Like my parents' house was full of people, like 12 hours a day. They coming, they welcoming. I didn't know that they were like that excited, or that they were that happy. And I believe the first time I saw my success in my parents' eyes, like really, it was 2012. I had a restaurant in Columbus Avenue, Upper West Side as well. So I did nice small posters. I put it I posted in the windows that mommy cooking with me in the kitchen, And when my mom arrived and she started to cook with me, we have so many people. I didn't put it in the media. I didn't, not in TV, not in newspaper. Just we post in our windows that mommy is coming. And my mom was so happy. You have no idea. I felt like when I saw how happy she is and how proud she is, it's all the hard work. For me, it was worth it. Because I think I done what I done over here just to let my parents know that leaving them doesn't mean I am not with them. I raised my kids here like a Druze. I stayed here a Druze 100%. I just had a dream to live in America. And with this dream, I make it also benefit me and them in somehow. It's a message for the girls over there that women could do it. If I did something in a legal way, I'm still Druze, all the way. I'm practicing what I need to practice like a Druze. I raise my kids like they grow up in the village. But I done something for myself. I done something for, I believe also for the society. The girls right now, they have me like example, So it's not that easy, especially after I separated from my husband to stay here. But also I made it, I let them also accept it. I came from very religious family. My uncles, my family is very religious, but they accept it. And don't ask me why, because I don't know, but they accept it.
That's amazing. Well, as a follow-up question, someone wanted to dig in a little bit more to the Druze community. Other than the religious observance and traditions, what sets Druze apart from Muslim Arabs and Christian Arabs in Israel?
Okay, if we're gonna talk about culture, I think even the Jewish that came from Arab countries, we have the same culture, the same food, okay? Religion, or it's separate. I'm a Druze, we have our own Bible, our own belief. We all believe, of course, the same, but, Druze are Druze. I think Druze, they are, I will say, very close to Jewish. We serve in the army, which is like other Arabs doesn't serve in the army, only Druze. The way the Jewish serve in the army after age of 18, the same also the Druze must go to army. And I don't know what kind of connection we have to each other. We are connected somehow. I cannot talk about Muslims or Christian, I don't know. But me, like Druze, Israeli, I think we are very connected.
Got it. Beth, another question for you. Why were all but 2 chefs men? Is that representative of the chef demographics?
It's a good question. You do have Efrat Enzel. Well, okay, so Efrat Enzel, you have Hila. I mean, Nof was the main protagonist, so I felt like she definitely took up a lot of the real estate. But again, I didn't have an agenda in terms of, oh, I need to show this many women or this many men. It was what I found and and I had a very limited string budget. So it was just me and a 2-person crew, no assistant, no production coordinator, nothing. So we would come across characters. They were incredible. Boom, and it's just, who did we find? Now, does that mean that there were less female chefs? Probably not quite as many female chefs than male chefs. I don't know what the demographic is. So I think part of it was I didn't come across as many, and then I found my people and I was filming them, and that was that, that's really the answer. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there's one more question that I'd like to bring up. Susan brings up, this is again, there's a lot of optimism on this film. But Susan writes that I believe that Haifa might be an exception, and that the relation with Palestinians across the Green Line is very problematic. I don't know if Israelis are aware of how their government treats those in occupied territory. Can you elaborate on whether your optimism extends beyond the Assam festival?
My optimism extends beyond the Asham Festival, absolutely, within however you want to define the Israel that does not include the West Bank and does not include the Gaza Strip. I will not comment on what goes on in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. I can say that within those lines, I do have optimism. I don't think it's just Haifa, but I saw Akko, which is very mixed. Salah talks about Jaffa in Tel Aviv and how these are their voices, not mine, and how they grew up. He'd call Abed and he'd call Yaakov to go play baseball. So it's not, and in Jerusalem, they live together, but it might be a little bit more segregated in that sense because the people are more religious, I suppose. But, and then of course, there are lots of just Arab villages and just Jewish areas. And those need more contact, of course, which is why you need more programs or more festivals or more things. My opinion is there should be a lot more of these types of things where art brings people together, whether it's food, whether it's music, probably sports, things like that, where your religious labels and political labels are removed and you can see that you have all these same connections, you all have grandparents, you all have, all the things you see in the film. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hopeful. I would like there to be more so that this can grow. And I do believe it's capable of growing. I can't be Pollyanna-ish. There are problems, there are conflicts, there are all kinds of things within Israel. But I do believe these things exist. I do believe there are areas of coexistence. I don't think it's just Haifa. But it's not all over the country, and also in the north, I think there's a lot more of contact, at least. But of course, the more we can do, and the more we can grow, and the more we can learn about each other, the better it can be. That's all I can say.
Giselle, I'd love thank you, Giselle. I'd love for you to weigh in and give us your perspective.
I believe I cannot say everything is 100% over there. It should be something, sometimes. But I think it's under control. It's not like people going in the streets and, like there is a new law right now that include the Druze not happy about it, okay? It's about the Arabs and in Israel. But it's not like the way that people even imagine. It's people live there peacefully. They like, I grow up there, I go visiting there, like people live peacefully. It doesn't matter if it's Druze, Muslims, Jewish. Um, I don't see there is conflict that, you know, cannot be solved. Of course, maybe there is. But for example, I came from a village that all of us Druze, like there is no Jewish, no, and it's not like I have to be living in Haifa to be, you know, connected with the others, but still we are connected to the Jewish and to the Muslims and to everybody. I believe, again, like Beth say, that the media make it look wow, but it's not true. People, when they go visit, people, when they go live there, they will know that it's not true.
I mean, how many people, told me when I said I was going to go make this? Oh my, I have kids. I'm a mom. I was going by myself, and everybody was saying, "Oh my God, are you safe? Are you going to be okay? Are you, And then you get there, and I did it, and it's absolutely ridiculous to even have that question. I'm not shaming anybody for asking it. I understand why they ask it, but having done what I've done, it's a ridiculous question. I felt so safe. I was by myself all the time. I was there at night all the time. I visit Nov at her village by myself by the third time. I went by myself. It's crazy. I didn't feel unsafe at all. But I do believe, I mean, look, this is a very different thing. And again, I'm not commenting on it at all, but the West Bank and Gaza Strip, those are different.
Absolutely. I think we don't know what's going on there. We don't go there. But I think people who live in Israel live together,
Got it. Great answers. Very thoughtful. Thank you. So I want to conclude with, people want to know how to stay in touch, keep updated. And Leanne Rosenblatt has a great kind of intro to our conclusion. She wrote, "This film has the best food photography ever. We are all hungry to have contact, to get to know one another. How can your film be followed up to implement contacts among the chefs at the festival and to the Israeli public?" And then I just want to add to that, I'm hoping you can add Beth and then Gazala, and I'll plug also Soupergirl. How can everyone on the call today follow up and follow with your personal progress and the movie and the restaurants? And so Beth, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. So first, I would like to give my wonderful thanks to Ofer Ben Yehuda, who is one of the primo food photographers, food director of photographies in Israel, who I'm so grateful who came onto this project. It was just me and him and a sound guy. It was my first phone call when I went out to make the film. My brother's friend's mother is a producer in Tel Aviv, and I called her up. I said, "Can you please put me in touch?" Because I had no contact really with anybody in Israel that way. "Can you please put me in touch with the best food photographer that you know of?" And it was Ofer. Thank you, Ofer. I believe that the four elements in this film that elevated the experience are the food photography. And I also want to thank John T. Fine, who was my wonderful editor, who we sat together and collaborated. I want to thank Omar El-Deeb, who was my Egyptian Muslim composer. I wanted to extend the message of the film when we did the post-production. I wanted to continue the idea of Jews and Muslims coming together. And so he was my composer. We learned so much about each other, working very carefully together. And also he brought in the Arabic instrument, the oud. And I said we should bring in the violin to give a little bit of an Ashkenazi flair and to make a little bit more of a bridge on the music. So it was intentional, and I thank him so much. And I want to thank Nicholas Ash Bateman, who also did the maps and the fonts and the coloring. And these are the elements that, you know, I feel really took the film to the next level. In terms of how do we get this message out? Well, that's up to everybody listening, right? Like I'm saying, let's, you know, call a neighbor, call a Muslim or a Jew that you don't know and ask to break bread together, learn more about each other, have a meal. That's what this is all about. I hope to continue. I would like to make a television show about it if I can at some point, and continue trying to bring, you know, these stories. And that's it. I hope you can tell other people and just you do your part. Everybody should do their part about learning, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, my friend. Like, take a sandwich or a turkey for Thanksgiving. Food brings people together. Let's talk a little bit more and come together instead of divide. That's my message. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. Gazala, how do we keep up with your progress? How do we follow along and learn about your comings and goings and growth and whatever you're doing?
I didn't get the question about me, like personally, like I'm Druze.
Yeah, your restaurants, you know, and whatever your next project may be. How do we keep in touch and learn more about you?
I will say I have an email for the restaurant. When they Google, if they have any questions, they will be more than welcome to email me, even with recipes, with anything. They could come and dine, you know, experience Druze food. Also, they could go to Israel and visit Druze villages. Like, also they are more than welcome, like, to experience Druze food as well. I came from Daliat El Carmel, which is, we have a lot of tourists. We have a big market over there, a lot of restaurants. Anything they could, like, hear, anything they could email me, they could ask whatever they want. I am more than happy to share and help in all ways.
Wonderful.
I better say my social media again, and also email me also. Sorry, Gazala, thank you. Which is, again, I think to email me, it's breakingbreadmovie@gmail.com. But on Instagram, it's Breaking Bread Movie, facebook.com/Breaking Bread Movie. And there's a website, Breaking Bread Movie. I welcome people to follow and share and spread the word.
Wonderful. That sounds great.
And also, I want to say something. There is in Arabic, yeah, we say in Arabic, khubz و ملح, which is that mean a bread and salt. And we should all have khubz و ملح. We should all share the bread and salt. We are all human, sharing the world, not only Israel, not only United States. If we believe we could live together, we're gonna live together. If we believe we should have peace, I think we will have peace. And if we believe it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. It's all up to us. And I think, you know, they should always share food, ideas, you know, they should all live together. You know what I mean?
Amen. Yeah, it's a great wish for the future. And I'm just going to give a plug. It's getting cold, so a great way to warm up if you're dining outside with loved ones is to get a good bowl of soup. Visit Soupergirl.com. We're doing a lot of work on fighting food insecurity and helping those in need during the holiday season. So please join our email list. And speaking of email lists, the Greater Washington Forum on Israeli Arab Issues email list is one you should definitely sign up for, so you can learn about future programs and announcements. And more programs like this, which was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank Beth and Gazala and Ilya and the entire team for hosting such a wonderful program. It's you know, this optimism and just talk of food is it's really great during these colder months and during times of real challenges. So thank you everyone for your optimism, your food, your warmth, and for joining us today. And thank you have a wonderful afternoon and wishing everyone a very happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving and holiday season.
Yes, thank you. Again, thank you to everybody and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll do something next year. God willing.
Absolutely.
See you next
Bye, everybody.
year. Bye.